What if I told you that one ordinary office worker, a man nobody noticed, nobody respected, brought down one of the most powerful corporations in America? Not with money. Not with lawyers. But with a single discovery that made billionaires sweat. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is the true-to-life story of how brains beat billions, and how corporate America never saw it coming. His name was Daniel Carter, and in the beginning, he was just another body in a cubicle farm. A gray desk, a flickering fluorescent light above him, the smell of stale coffee that lingered in the air like regret. Daniel wasn't a genius. He wasn't some Ivy League recruit groomed for success. He was the guy you'd pass in the hallway and forget instantly. But there was something about him nobody saw: patience. Patience, and an eye for detail sharp enough to slice through steel. Each morning he swiped his badge, rode the elevator up to the 18th floor, and sat at a desk where the keyboard was worn thin, like his spirit. His bosses barely looked at him. To them, Daniel was a replaceable part, someone who existed only to keep the numbers flowing, the machine turning, the profits rising. They never knew he was watching them. Every email, every budget cut, every new policy that squeezed the workers a little tighter, he logged it all away in his mind. Not because he planned to fight back, but because he couldn't stop seeing the cracks forming in the walls around him. It started small. A missing line item on a spreadsheet. A number that didn't add up. Most people would shrug, call it a typo, move on. But Daniel couldn't. He circled it in his head like a hawk. And then another appeared. And another. Before long, the mistakes weren't mistakes. They were patterns. And patterns, Daniel knew, told stories. Now imagine this: you're sitting in your cubicle, watching your boss drive away in a brand new car, knowing your rent is due and your paycheck barely covers it. That was Daniel's reality. And yet, while everyone else complained at happy hour or whispered in the break room, Daniel stayed silent. He wasn't bitter. He was calculating. One night, long after the office emptied, Daniel stayed behind. The building was quiet, the city lights glowing through the windows. He opened a folder hidden in a maze of shared drives, a folder he wasn't supposed to find. Inside, documents. Contracts. Payments. At first, it looked boring. Endless jargon, endless figures. Millions were moving off the books. Money shuffled into shell accounts. Bonuses paid to employees who didn't exist. This was deliberate theft, fraud at a scale that could topple giants. Daniel didn't slam his fist down and march to HR. No. He knew better. In corporate America, the truth doesn't set you free. It gets you fired. Or worse. So he smiled the next morning, nodded at his boss, poured himself a cup of burnt coffee, and started playing the long game. He began gathering evidence. Slowly, carefully. A screenshot here. A printed file slipped into his bag there. He memorized the times when the system ran slow, when the servers flickered, when access levels shifted. He built a map of corruption one breadcrumb at a time. And the higher up the trail he climbed, the bigger the monster revealed itself to be. But the walls started closing in. His keycard stopped working late at night. His emails vanished from the system. And then came the first warning, a sticky note left on his desk with 3 words: "Stop digging now." Think about that for a moment. An ordinary office worker, one nobody cared about, suddenly mattered enough for the machine to notice. That should terrify you. Daniel didn't stop. Because he knew what was at stake. This wasn't just about his paycheck, or his pride. This was about every worker who ever stayed late without pay. Every family who lost healthcare because a CEO wanted another yacht. Every voice silenced by the lie that, you're lucky to even have a job. So he pushed deeper. He found that the company wasn't just cheating workers, it was cheating shareholders, clients, even the government. Billions hidden in the shadows. Entire divisions of the company propped up by fraud. He realized the empire was a hollow shell, glittering on the outside but rotting at the core. But Daniel didn't choose any of those. He chose something the company never expected. He went straight to the one place that corporations fear the most, the workers themselves. Anonymous emails began to circulate. Screenshots attached. Numbers highlighted. Evidence laid bare for anyone to see. At first, people thought it was a joke. Office gossip. But then the whispers grew. Did you see this? Is this real? What does this mean? Within weeks, the whispers became roars. Entire departments stopped trusting their bosses. Meetings turned hostile. Workers stopped nodding. They started questioning. And then came the turning point. A single document. Harmless looking at first, a quarterly report buried in the archives. But inside, numbers so outrageous they couldn't be explained away. The kind of numbers that could sink the company if they ever saw daylight. Daniel stared at it for hours, the weight of it pressing on his chest. With this, he held a loaded gun pointed at the heart of corporate America. Now ask yourself, what would you do? Would you burn it all down? Leak it to the press? Run, hide, pretend you never saw it? That's the choice Daniel faced, night after night, as he lay awake staring at his cracked ceiling. But Daniel didn't choose any of those. He chose something the company never expected. He went straight to the one place that corporations fear the most, the workers themselves. Anonymous emails began to circulate. Screenshots attached. Numbers highlighted. Evidence laid bare for anyone to see. At first, people thought it was a joke. Office gossip. But then the whispers grew. Did you see this? Is this real? What does this mean? Within weeks, the whispers became roars. Entire departments stopped trusting their bosses. Meetings turned hostile. Workers stopped nodding. They started questioning. Corporate America thrives on silence. Daniel shattered it. The company tried to fight back. Executives held emergency town halls, spewing scripted reassurances. They blamed clerical errors. They called the evidence out of context. But the workers weren't buying it. Because once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. And once you taste power, you can't go back to silence. It spread beyond the office walls. Journalists picked it up. Lawmakers took interest. Investors panicked. The stock price dipped, then plunged. And for the first time in decades, the people at the top felt what the people at the bottom had felt all along: fear. The story doesn't end with a resignation letter or a slap on the wrist. It ends with lawsuits. With subpoenas. With CEOs sweating under oath as their empire crumbled. It ends with workers walking into the office not as nameless bodies in cubicles, but as a force that could no longer be ignored. And Daniel? He didn't get a medal. He didn't get rich. He disappeared into quiet obscurity, just as he had lived. But he left behind something bigger than himself, proof that even in a system built to crush you, one worker, one voice, one ordinary man, can bring giants to their knees. So the next time you're staring at a glowing screen in a gray cubicle, feeling invisible, remember this: the machine is never as strong as it looks. And sometimes, the smallest cog can jam the whole thing. Because brains beat billions. And corporate America never saw it coming.